And there's nobody better to talk to about the Miami Dolphins than Brendan Tobin. Brendan, thanks so much for being with us. You have more going on than maybe anybody I've ever seen. So, I mean, tell us about all the stuff you got happening between podcasts covering the Dolphins and other sports in Miami, your radio show. What do you got going on down there?
Yeah, well, we're excited. We are the midday show. My host, co-host Leroy Horde, who was a running back for the Browns and Vikings for a long time. We've been doing radio down here for about 7 years, and we're on from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. every single weekday. And then we start up on our new time slot next week, so we're excited about that. And then do the Porpoise Pod, which is a new Dolphins exclusive podcast with my co-host Alejandro Solana, who's on Afternoon Drive down here in Miami. And he is the executive producer of Dolphins broadcast. So we're all over the place. The town is very hyped up about their Dolphins right now. This is a very thirsty fan base that, has not been to the Super Bowl, hasn't won a playoff game in over 20 years, but hasn't been to the Super Bowl in a very long time. And they're very, very amped up right now, Tom.
Before we go any further about football, Brendan, and I know it was primarily the west coast of Florida, but then Hurricane Ian moves up, crosses the state, runs up along the northern part of Florida. Are you guys okay down there? Was it bad? Did you get a lot of rain, a lot of wind? Not the hurricane necessarily, but some sort of aftermath from that?
There's, down here, it's tough because, you always have flooding that you have to deal with. There was, a town that's 2 towns south of me, Delray Beach, place I used to live. They got hit by some tornadoes really bad. But nothing compared to what they're dealing with on the West Coast right now, which is just devastating to see. And, in those things, you just kind of feel lucky because you really got no control over it. So thankful that here it's, my yard, it's nothing but a few branches all over the place, but nothing major at all.
All right. Well, say your prayers for that. That's for sure. All right. Let's talk about the game here a little bit tonight. And you're right. Look, you've forgotten more about it than I know about it, but I made reference yesterday. I had a couple of friends I went to college with who were born and raised Miami guys, a little bit north of Miami guys. Their families had season tickets. And it was the first time I had ever been exposed to the Dolphins fan base. And it really is amazing. It is a great football town. Florida is a great football state. High school football, college football for a long, long time. Not so much anymore, but for a long, long time, college football. But pro football. They love their Dolphins down there. And I got to believe, as you briefly just mentioned, that they are going crazy about the start to this season.
Yeah, it's as excited as I can remember this fan base being a long time. There was some levels of this last year, because people were very excited for the first year of Tua starting, and they were good the year before that, and I think people really did buy into Brian Flores. But it just got off to such a bad start early on. They won week 1, and then Tua breaks his ribs week 2, and they go on this awful losing streak. So all the air was really taken out of the season. Now they ended up rallying and, having a crack at the playoffs. But this, everybody looked at the start of this season and thought the Dolphins were good and were excited by the new coach and excited by Tyreek Hill. But there were questions, like as much positive reinforcement as it has, you have to see it. And for them to deliver the way that they have the first 3 weeks, this place is as jazzed up as I can remember, just because it's not only that you feel like they're a legitimately good team, but they're thrilling to watch every single week because all of the games have been unbelievably fun. They're big play offense, which they have not had down here in a long, long time. It's usually been, dink and dunk and playing for field goals, and you had some excitement with Ricky Williams back in the day, but this explosive chunk plays down the field to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, as everybody just thrilled right now.
Let's start with Tua. It was scary video last week. We find out after the game it was a back issue and not a head issue. He was in no concussion protocol at all, but it was really scary when you were sitting there watching it. How healthy is he, do you think, coming into this game, Brendan?
That's a good question, because he said that the major issue is the back and that he did have a lot of issues after he got hurt like that throwing the football. Now, I know a lot of people don't believe him. They say that, we all saw him wobble the way that he did. They think that it was a concussion, but, he swears the thing that's bothering him the most is the back. The coach then also revealed that he jacked up his ankle in that game as well. So there were definitely some questions around Monday of whether or not Tua was going to play. And then he speaks to the media and you get the feeling that he is going to suit up no matter what. And he was through a walkthrough, which got released yesterday by some fans at the University of Cincinnati. So yeah, I think he is going to play in this game, but is he going to be 100%? That's tough. I mean, this is a Dolphins team that's banged up kind of all over the place. Even their offensive line has had stuff they've had to deal with. And this is a very quick turnaround off a very, very physical game with the Bills.
Well, I mean, physical game, and then you throw in the weather conditions. I mean, we had Grant Napier on the show a couple of days ago, and he lives down there, and made the comment. He said, for anybody that spent time in this part of the country, not that September you're necessarily getting breaks, but maybe you're starting to catch a break here or there before October really getting breaks. He said it was just brutal down there, and he made the comment, and I'm curious if you agree, that if you have to play the Miami Dolphins, a very, very good Miami Dolphins team, if you're the Bengals, this might be the perfect time to catch them based on the kind of day and the kind of game it was on Sunday. Is that fair?
I don't think that's unfair. I think that, with all of the things they've been banged up with, that it is a good time to catch them, especially that defense. The defense played a lot of snaps and had a very physical game because Josh Allen is really, really tough to bring down. But they have shown, even in their, up and downness so far this season, against the Ravens, let's say, that even late in the game where it seems like they're getting torched, they can come up with key stops. And, the kind of will that they showed in that Bills game, I'm with you. I would doubt that they can continue to keep that up, but they continue to, I think, surprise how much they're able to come through when you don't think they have anything left. I would say, the thing that the Dolphins have not been able to get going so far this year has been a run game. And I think that if that was be a way where they could kind of control the ball a little bit more against Cincinnati and keep that defense as snaps limited, yeah, it would be a very beneficial thing. But that has not been the case for them so far this year. They've been mostly a explosive, short drive, big play offense, and that doesn't leave a lot of rest for your defense. So it could be opportunistic for the Bengals.
Well, we were talking a little while ago, and as you're well aware, the Bengals' best defensive lineman, all-around defensive lineman, not just the guy that gets the sexy sacks on the quarterback like Hendrickson does, but DJ Reader is considered to be their best defensive lineman, interior guy. Very good against the run and has been excellent against the pass, applying pressure. He's out tonight. So we'll see how that run game perhaps is able to get cranked up. When you look at the Bengals, Super Bowl last year, start off 0-2 this year, finally get their first win. Do you look at the Bengals as a different team than you might have, say, 4 weeks ago or 4 months ago when the NFL schedule came out and you saw the Dolphins were going to Cincinnati on a Thursday night?
I mean, they had such close losses early on in the season, and I think that when you come off of the Super Bowl, and especially the team that loses, everybody's going to think there's this natural hangover. I think probably even you guys would think that was a crazy run early for them. But I still look at a team that's so explosive with so many weapons. Joe Burrow is so exciting and has lived up and exceeded every expectation that I think any fan base could have wanted for them. But, I think for them, it's a question of people are going to be jacked up taking on the defending AFC champs. I think that's a lot different than being the cute team that's sneaking up on everybody. Even the Dolphins acknowledged this week, like, we know it means something to go beat the team that was just in the Super Bowl. And I think for, this QB matchup, it means a lot too, because this was a fan base that at one point maybe thought they were going to get Joe Burrow, and they ended up with Tua. And certainly Burrow has been off to a faster career start than Tua has been. And so, for him, I think that even hearing Joe talk about it, that, he was back watching that Bengals-Dolphins game from a couple of years back, whether he was going to go. And, that beating Tua in college was a little bit of a measuring stick for him to know that he could be the best quarterback in that draft. So I still think that they're very, very dangerous. I think that when everybody saw this schedule open up, that they looked at that Bills-Bengals back-to-back and knew that was probably going to be one of the toughest challenges of the season of how they were going to handle that. And the Dolphins have definitely gotten off to this amazing start, and 4-0 is almost incomprehensible for this fan base if they were able to do that. But I certainly don't think this is anybody taking them lightly. I think that they know that they're dangerous, that they got that many weapons, and that you can't sleep on them.
Casey, did you have a question?
Yeah, I when I was doing research on who to find to bring on to the show, one of the first videos I looked up was the reaction to the game after the Bills game. And you said something that I just found very funny, but also very telling about McDaniels, and that you wanted to change the logo to a pair of nuts because he's got a pair of nuts. He's gonna gamble the ball. He's gonna do what he's got to do and live with it. Can you kind of like speak to that? Like, is there a vibe about this team that's different now with McDaniel? Is it his personality that's like pushing the team forward, or what? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, this guy is such a joy to be around because football is pretty joyless. Like it's a lot of people being miserable all the time. They never give you anything.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the anti-NBA where it's like, guys will show their personality a little more. With Mike McDaniel, he's just such a breath of fresh air, and he came in with one task, and that was to breathe this confidence into his quarterback, who had basically been sabotaged the last couple of years by a coach that didn't want him anymore, and an organization, quite frankly, that was looking for his replacement for the last 2 years, whether it be going after Deshaun Watson or flirting with Tom Brady or tampering with Tom Brady, however you want to put it. And once they get caught and this lawsuit gets dropped in their lap, and they go from the situation where they were going to go maybe after Tom Brady and Sean Payton to this kind of unknown who wasn't interviewed by any other team, and Twitter kind of goes on fire because he's got all these quirky answers to press conferences. And you're like, okay, is he going to be like this as the boss? Because it's one thing to be like that as the offensive coordinator. And he was, he's slinging jokes at press conferences, but he's also, you could just tell his mind goes a mile a minute. Some coaches, they'll take 60 seconds to say nothing. He almost takes 60 seconds to say everything. He goes in so many different directions. And as far as the way it's been on the field, this has been a team that is just, it's full of, as they say, as Tyreek Hill says, he needs a wheelbarrow to truck his cojones around. That's how he is. And, it's whether it's just the big plays on, 4th and 7 against the Patriots, whether it's 3rd and 10 against the Ravens, and they're doing what they call the bleep it play, where they chuck it down to Tyreek Hill, whether it's 3rd and 22 to get to Jalen Waddle. They just seem like a team that is not against taking risks. And I think that for the coaches that have been down here in the past, between Flores and Philbin and Adam Gase, these were all very conservative coaches that were not exciting offenses. And I think that Mike McDaniels has brought a different level to that. And so on top of just the defense having big time stands, and Tua with his big time throws, and Tyreek Hill's personality, and Mike McDaniel's willingness to go for it in tough situations, yeah, man, I think Aqua Testicles would be a fantastic logo change for the Dolphins.
Yeah, I would agree with that. However, I do have one last question for you. If you had the chance for Tom Brady and Sean Payton, I mean, like, were you on that train? Like, would you have been like,
no.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't have been?
It's not so much a thing against, I didn't really have an opinion of Sean Payton. Like, I would have gotten it, but they've been there, done that down here, man. I'm telling you, like, between having Bill Parcells come down here and flaming out as the president, having Nick Saban here and him flaming out and running off to Alabama, Jimmy Johnson even wasn't, the savior. Now, he was great with some of the drafts that he had, and he had, Jason Taylor and Zach Thomas. He found some amazing guys, but it was not what people lived up to expectations. And yes, they've gone away from that because Stephen Ross has definitely gone in the direction of he likes giving first-time head coaches their chance. So I would have understood it going after Sean Payton. But I think really what the thing was interesting about this with this whole tampering thing, I was not about having Tom Brady. I think it's weird to have a guy who's kind of owned you as a rival to come in as your quarterback, a la like Brett Favre in the Minnesota Vikings after all those years with the Packers. I'm not I've spent my life rooting against Tom Brady. I don't like Tom Brady. He's great. I don't say he sucks, but it's not something I would have fun doing, I don't think. So to see them go from that to just a completely other direction of unknown coach and a quarterback nobody's really sure is good, and to be off to this start, yeah, it's quite the twist because everybody was probably thinking, oh, big names, proven guy, to two guys who are completely unproven, and they have them in this position. What a start it's been.
All right, Brendan, last question. Give me your prediction for tonight's game.
I mean, you guys are going to be mad at me. I'm going to pick the Dolphins. Nobody's
going to be mad at you here. I mean, the two guys I got producing. Now, listen, Brendan, the two guys we got producing over here, Casey and Brandon, they're the biggest homers in the world. They had me singing some Bengals fight song a couple of weeks ago. I mean, my career is already somewhat in the toilet, and it's actually going down the drain as I'm singing that song. And that's what they brought me to. I'm like, Pacino. Michael Corleone. I keep getting sucked in. But we're never going to be mad at you as a very special guest for picking your hometown team. I mean, but you don't really think the Dolphins are winning this game, Brendan. Come on.
Look, man, I mean, I didn't think they were going to be 3-0 either. And they just keep surprising me. And the thing that's been impressive about them in all seriousness, they have won all of these games in very different fashions. They've shown whether it be a grind out game, whether it be a game they need to come back in, a game they need to air it out at certain times, they've been impressive, and I can't doubt them. Even like some of the surprise picks, like Melvin Ingram just won AFC Defensive Player of the Month. Who the hell would have had that at the start of the season, where you thought that Melvin Ingram, who they got off the scrap heap, would have been named the best player in the conference? So I'm going to go late field goal win, Jason Sanders beating the Bengals 24-21.
Okay. All right.
Low-scoring game.
Brendan, you've been great to have on here today. We thank you at the last second. We saw your video, and we said we got to try to find a way to hunt that guy down. And thank you so much. I know you're busy. You got a lot going on, late night ahead. And enjoy the game tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for the fun, guys. I appreciate it.
All right. Brendan Tobin.